I'm going to talk about Franklin's secret, and I'm going to try not to vomit. I have been studying this craft of barbecue before it was ever popular. If you make that statement, I already know you don't understand barbecue, or you understand it, you're just cocky. Are pellet grills real barbecue? I'm not even going to answer that because I touched on it earlier. So we should, guys, stop asking that question. Personally, I think it's a little bit easier to mess up a Wagyu than it is a choice brisket. I think that from my experience because it's so much more delicate. Do barbecue YouTubers ruin barbecue? How in the world do I answer that as a barbecue YouTuber? Actually, I don't care. What am I talking about? I'll name drop because I don't have any ill will towards anyone. I'm not going to use me as an example because I'm not profiting yet from the industry. So let's talk about someone who does profit from the industry. Matt Pittman. If we start making barrier to entry to this thing, we're ruining barbecue into something that today, right now, is so far overpriced, it's depressing. Texas holds the line for that. Well. If it isn't the meat freaks and barbecue geeks, however, it's gotten weirder because now you're in my humble abode. Mi casa su casa. Welcome. I'm being for real. Welcome, barbecue fam. Okay, so we're ripping a pod, guys. We are ripping a freaking podcast. And it's the first one. It might be the only one. Probably not, because these are fun. And I say these are fun because the only time that I've done something in this format is normally live streams. And 95% of the live streams I post, I go live with no warning. People join, I answer a bunch of questions live, and then I delete them after. I think there's only 3 live streams up. However, there's 2 reasons that I'm here today. One, guys, the state of barbecue as we know it today. I'm going to touch on that. I want to unpack that. But also, I'm here because at the time of filming this, which I hate to date this video, was not that big of a deal, but because I try to make evergreen content, but because it's a podcast, it is what it is. It's 2025 currently, and tomorrow is Thanksgiving. The main reason that I wanted to make this podcast is because if you're like me, I don't consume that much YouTube these days, but how I used to be, guys, if it was the day before Big Cook, I was on the interwebs. I was in there. I was in the inner parts of the interweb. That sounds bad. You know what I mean. I was watching tons of videos, and it dawned on me. I was like, I could post a cooking video tomorrow, which was the plan. But I'm like, guys, who wants to watch a cooking video on a day that you just ate a bunch of food? So I'm podcasting. And so here we are. Let me lay some ground rules. Not ground rules. Let me preface with this. If you're still watching this and you've never been here before, I'm going to talk to you right now. And if you want to leave, leave. Cool. I mean, I'd miss you, but you're free to leave. But before you leave, let me talk to you right now. First, on this platform, on Meet and Greet, it's a community that I build in tandem with the folks who decide to subscribe. However, a subscription is earned. It's not given, meaning I don't expect you, and you'll never see me out here soliciting you for subscriptions. I earn the subscription. So what I say to all new people is don't subscribe yet. I mean, if you've seen enough already to subscribe, I won't stop you. But my point is, this is like a low pressure environment where I don't ask you to subscribe. I earn that from you. And then my hope is that one day if I provide enough value, maybe you'll throw your boy a sub. So that's first. Second, if you are still wondering, like, who is this guy and why the heck is he even worth the potential 30, 45, 2 hours, I don't know how long this would be. Why is it even worth me listening? I'll say this, and I'm saying it with humility. I've been barbecuing now for almost 15 years. I have built smokers. This channel started with me building a 500-gallon smoker. So I know smokers and smoking apparatuses intimately. I have been studying this craft of barbecue before it was ever popular, before it was ever a social media popularity contest. Can I say that? I just did. I was studying this thing before there was real information on it, meaning you had to know someone that had the blood and the sweat and the tears and the years to learn this thing. You had to know someone that was willing to teach you the ropes. Lucky for me, though, I can say, lucky for me, right at the point where I was like, this is impossible to figure out, YouTube, I think YouTube did exist, but I think when I started barbecue, YouTube, it was just like nowhere near what it is today. And at the time, what's my point? I think what I'm trying to say is that lucky for me, the Malcolm Reeds of the world started posting some content here or there, so I was able to get a lifeline. But I say all that, guys, you should hang around this podcast today because I've not found a more nerdy YouTube channel when it comes to barbecue than mine. I just haven't. Like I have a couple master classes on barbecue that are like an hour and a half to 2 hours long, and I don't ask anything. Like I don't charge for them. And if you go watch them, they're just straight Nerdville barbecue content. So if you're into that kind of stuff, you're just hanging out with the right dude. Like I'm not in barbecue for the, what's the word? Come on, gosh darn it, because I'm shooting these live with minimal editing. So if I can't think of the word, then I don't have the word. So I don't have the word. But I don't even remember what I was gonna say there. My point is, popularity. That's what I was gonna say. Welcome to a day in the life of Marcus's brain. That's how that works. I'm not in this thing for like the popularity. I'm not in it for the hype of the new fad of whatever. No, I'm in this thing because if I was stranded on a desert island and I had a genie and I could get 3 wishes, my wishes would literally be my wife, an offset smoker, and unlimited fire. I'll go hunt the meat. That's how much I love barbecue. Dang, that was cold. I should figure out a way to put that on a t-shirt. Okay. So, sorry, I probably just sipped right in the mic. It is what it is. That's my point. We're ripping a pod today. We're hitting a lot of topics. I just wanted to preface with that. If you've never been here before, and the reason I'm speaking to the new folks is because if you've been here before, we're family already. I really believe that. It would be like if one of your brothers or your cousin or your uncle or whatever came over and knocked on your door at I don't know, 5 o'clock at night. Like you're probably going to let him in and you're probably going to hang out because that's family. Like he doesn't have to convince you from outside to let him in. That's how I feel with the folks who have been here. I don't have to necessarily convince you. Like the door is always open. Come in, hang out. You guys know the drill. But if you're new, I don't ask anything. I never will. And if I do, hold me accountable. That's the best I can say. All right, let's move on. Let's dive into the podcast. If you see me looking off yonder, I have my laptop here where I am basically live. I'm capturing all this audio live, filtering it through a bunch of fancy filters live, and I'm cutting it live. It's essentially what's happening. If you see me looking over there and over here, I have 7 bullet points with so much information that I'm going to try to dive through. So let's jump into it. And while I'm trying to figure out which one I want to hit first, I will say this. Because I dated this video, you now know that it's Thanksgiving 2025. If you don't mind, would you drop in the comments? Because gosh, I hate when other YouTubers are like, drop in the comments and whatever. Because what they're trying to do, and I've been guilty of doing this, but I'm being honest. What they're trying to do, as you may or may not know, they're trying to tell the algorithm that people are liking the video. More interactions that a video gets, the better it performs. So that's why you'll see people pin comments at the top, or they're trying to push people to the comment section. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think some people are just bad at doing it. So I add that preface. I'm really not trying to do that. I actually am curious, like, how did the Thanksgiving cook go? I ask that because you guys have no idea the amount of DMs that I get on Instagram of people asking me barbecue questions. And this year seemed a bit odd where I didn't get a lot of the like turkey questions like I did last year. Well, maybe I'm just falling off. Or maybe there's more to the story that I just don't know. So tap in and let me know, like, did you smoke something first off, barbecue wise? Turkey, did it go good? I'm just curious. All right, so let's jump into this thing. The start of this podcast, the idea, the genesis of the podcast was I posted I don't remember how it happened either. Posted on my Instagram, which you should follow me there. But I posted on my Instagram story like one of those questions things. Yeah, that's how it happened. I posted a questions poll, whatever you call it. And I was just answering questions on my Instagram story. And someone said, this was the question: do you think there's elitism in barbecue today? And that question shook me because he was able to describe what I had been feeling. I mean, his question is how I had been feeling. Yes, there is. And so I told him, I was like, I'm going to do a whole separate video on that. And then I never really got around to it. And then now we're here. So I'm going to open the podcast up with that, which is there elitism in barbecue? And like, I want to talk about it. So let's talk about it. I had some notes here because I set on that. Like, what does he mean by that? I actually ended up asking him via DMs what he meant by elitism. He expounded. That helped better inform my answer. With that, I have some notes. So, guys, look. Firstly, the normal rules of barbecue, I think, have crushed creativity. I think we're getting out of that. It's getting better, in part due to creators on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, pushing the boundaries of live fire cooking. I mean, if you look at barbecue as a whole now, you would say barbecue is a total opposite of creativity. It's like extremely creative. And I'm not so much talking about barbecue smoking apparatuses, because you have all these cool live fire cooking apparatuses that are super creative, where they're like hanging an alligator upside down over a bed of pineapples or something. I don't know. That's creative and all, yeah. But I'm talking about the nuance of barbecue. I personally started the channel, which I think was like 2 or 3 years ago at this point. I posted the first video. It started because I was complaining to my wife at how I'm so tired of hearing other creators, which I'm sorry to say that, not all creators, just some creators on YouTube. They were annoying me because what they were doing is they were starting to regurgitate the same rule set that the last pitmaster gave. And then what ended up happening is you just had this echo chamber of barbecue rules. And that's not what I was doing. Like, by the time anyone cared about barbecue on YouTube, I had already been doing it for like a decade. And I had already learned what I needed to learn from barbecue. I mean, I'm always learning, but my point is, like, I had already my knife was sharp. That's what I'm trying to say. And I'm thinking to myself, and I complain to my wife, I say, babe, why are people talking about these rules like this when I'm not doing that? I'm doing this thing over here, and it's different than what all of YouTube is saying. And it's dawned on me now in hindsight, the rules have killed the creativity of barbecue. It really has. And we're getting a lot better because you have different guys, myself included, coming out and saying, like, I don't remove the membrane on my ribs. I don't do that for the most part. But if you were to ask the YouTube echo chamber of the past century, I don't know how long a century is. It's a long time. The last 20 years, 15 years, I should say. You'd have to remove the membrane on your ribs. Like, if you weren't doing that, everyone would tell you you're wrong. Okay, that's an example. Another example, you have to have clean smoke when you barbecue, specifically brisket. You have to have clean smoke. If you didn't have clean smoke, The echo chamber of the internet would tell you you're wrong. I would see that. But then I go cook 10 briskets for an event, and 60% of the cook, I had like awfully dirty smoke. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I was thinking to myself, the internet is telling me I'm wrong. I found a way that works for me. And then come to find out, these barbecue restaurants are not rolling clean smoke the whole time. Most of them are not. So what's my point? My point is the rules, guys. The barbecue rules. Stop. We have got to stop. Are there some absolutes in barbecue? For sure. There are. Some. Past the absolutes, what makes each pitmaster different and unique is the way that they're bending the rules to work for them. I'll give you an example. I shot a documentary at Style Switch Barbecue, which if you don't know Style Switch, they're in Austin and they're legendary. Like when it comes to the craft barbecue movement, there were, in my opinion, less than 2 people that came before them doing craft barbecue. And so yeah, they're legendary. They were there in the beginning. And I say that because they know their stuff. They've been doing it for a long time at the highest level. Also, the documentary is on my YouTube channel, on this channel, so check it out when you get a sec. I was there for a few days. And when I say a few days, like I was there literally all day and all night because they run 24/7. So I was there with my bros shooting this film. And I'm there shooting the breeze with Lance and the other pitmasters. And about halfway through the first day, I had noticed just the pitmaster and me, trying to glean all the information I can. I had noticed, I'm like, they have not adjusted their stack one time. And then by nightfall, it was like irking me. I'm like, dang, they've not touched this freaking stack once. Finally, at like 1 o'clock in the morning, I said to Lance, I'm like, hey, brother, what's the deal with the stack, dude? It's like, it's an itch that I have not been able to scratch. Like, why is no one touching the stacks? And he's like, well, for us, we've learned with our smokers. And then he dives into this super nerdy thing that I loved. I loved it because it's what I like. He dives into the way, bro, how crazy is this? This is like how dialed pitmasters are. The general public doesn't notice this. He dives into the way that the smokers and the fireboxes are situated in like their actual proximity geographically, like where they're at. And the way that the wind trails off and drops into this valley and then dumps into the smokers. He's like, our smokers are so efficient. They're Mobergs, by the way. Shout out Sonny. He's like, our smokers are so efficient that the way that the wind trails into this kind of this valley, we use it to our advantage. And we run our stacks wide open, and then we control what happens in the smoker with the door to our firebox, and then the fires that are in the firebox. So they build. You should take a look inside. I mean, I have it on film. You can watch the film and see the way that they're running their fires are a little bit more unique than other restaurants. And that's because of the elements that they're given. In barbecue, guys, the rules that you have got to be rules for the common denominators, the most consistent variables. After that, rules go to the wayside because most of barbecue it's one big game of how can I control what's non-controllable? Like, how do I control the weather when I'm not God? I can't make it not rain. I can't make the southeastern wind that's just ripping into my firebox. I can't make it stop or whatever's happening with the weather. So barbecue as a whole is one big game of assess all of the non-controllables, identify which of those non-controllables are affecting your cook, and then control them. And by definition, that is nearly an impossible equation, because how can you control something you have no control over? So my point is, what is my point? My point is the rules. You got to leave the rules to the side, most of them. Now, let's touch on rules real quick, because this is a podcast and I can go 2.5 hours without getting yelled at for talking too much. This feels good. This feels great. So let's unpack it. Like, part of what I want this podcast to be as well is I want you guys to watch this and leave it and be like, dang, that was some good information. I'm going to try to dump as much data as I have into, I try to do that with all my videos, but this podcast is no exception. I hope you leave this and at bare minimum you pick up one tip. At maximum, I hope you leave this and your whole noggin is exploding. We'll see. Let me know in the comments if that's happened to you. All right. Rules. Let me round out rules with what are some acceptable rules? Like, what are the rules that I abide by? Even the absolutes are sometimes always changing. For example, here's a good rule. Your splits have to be right. They have to be. It doesn't matter if it's snowing, raining. It doesn't matter if you're in Alaska or if you're in Cuba, wherever. Your splits have to be right. Well, Marcus, what makes it right? That's dependent on your smoking apparatus. They can't be too wet. They can't have too much moisture. There can't be too much humidity sucked up into the wood. They can't be too dry. They have to be just right. When it comes to my wood, when it comes to my barbecue wood, I like 15% humidity. I will go as high as 20, potentially 25. I'll go as low as 10, maybe. But that's what I like for my splits. I like a perfectly seasoned split leaning a little bit more towards denser, a little bit more moisture. I'll take more moisture than less moisture. That's it for me. That's an absolute. If I don't have that, I'm wrong. Like, I'm wrong. Can I make good barbecue? Yeah. But it's a rule that if you break it, there is a consequence. So that's an absolute for me. What's another absolute? This is how many not absolutes exist in barbecue. I'm trying to think of what is absolutely a rule every time I barbecue. And I'm trying to think of one past my splits. I got one. People underestimate when it comes to fire management. People underestimate. I don't know if they underestimate it or maybe they don't understand this to be a fact. But it's a fact that if I have too many coals in my firebox, I'm cooking with too much radiant heat. And I am running the risk of doing a lot of adverse things in my cook chamber. So an absolute for me is to be 100% totally cognizant of my coal bed, my coal base, meaning what my logs are sitting on, and then the residual coal around it. I see a lot of people checking their firebox. Like, I've seen YouTube videos where I'll watch it and they'll do like a fire check or whatever. And I'm like, my goodness, you have so many coals in there. And then they show the end product and they're like, man, my lean is just delicious. And I'm like, it's not really, it's beef jerky. It's beef jerky, brother. And that's okay. It's totally fine. You can jerk your lean. Whoa, what? You can jerky your lean. This is brutal. Sorry. You get what I'm saying? It's totally fine. You can beef jerky your lean if you want to and act like it's okay. But you were cooking with so much residual heat, your lean never stood a chance. So that's an absolute. It's like, every time I check my firebox, I'm not just checking it just to check the box that I looked at it, or I'm not just checking it just to poke it around. Like, I'm actually doing something every time. And if you don't know what you're doing when you're checking your firebox, my advice, don't do anything. Just stop. Leave it. Because you're going to do more damage poking around and kicking stuff up, whatever, than if you were to just let that fire run its course, assuming it's not like scorching hot and you're in the wheelhouse of the temp set you want. Again, shameless plug. If you're curious about any of that, I say this humbly, but I think I got one of the best fire management videos out there, not because I'm special, but because I didn't start making videos too prematurely. Which is also, some people are not going to like me after this because they're going to say, Marcus, you're cocky. I'm not cocky, guys. I take barbecue seriously, and I was raised this way, what I'm about to say, meaning my father was very big with me on keep your mouth totally shut until you have something darn good to say. That's how my pops raised me. To just to talk was like grounds to get belt to butt, you know? And hey, maybe I was raised a little tougher. I don't know. My point is, I started my channel when I had the information to give. I wasn't making it up as I went, and I for sure wasn't watching the other guy to then go do my thing. And so my point is, I think I have a good fire management video because that's 15 years of knowledge. It's 12 years for sure. I mean, I can comfortably say it's 12 years of me dialing fire management on my own. And then I showed up on a camera with my wife and we produced it. So if you're curious about this fire management thing, like what I was just talking about, go watch that. It's a great place to start. Okay, let's move off that. We're still on elitism though. I'm just going to cook this topic because it gets even deeper. So there's elitism when it comes to the rules. I think people are very elite. They're very hoity-toity, very ha-ha-ha about their rules. And it's so yeah, okay. Gatekeeping. I think barbecue is moving towards a level of elitism because of the historic gatekeeping. Specifically with brisket fire management. Let's unpack that briefly because I just hammered the rules and the podcast just started and we're still on the rules. So let me move through this. If you gatekeep, let me say this as a blanket statement on elitism as a whole. If you take anything that's trending and becomes popular, a byproduct will naturally be elitism in anything. For example, golf. I convinced myself that my 315-pound frame, my gorilla hand jiu-jitsu fighting frame was going to be a good golfer. So for a year, I got lessons and whatever, and I tried to golf. You may tell you why I stopped golfing? The elitism, honestly. Like I go to the country club, and it's just the whole scene about the gear and the clothes and the swag and the this and the that. And then you get on golf social media, and then that's a whole other beast. And then before you know it, you're like, hey, I just wanted to learn how to do this cool thing as a hobby, and now it's gross to me. And it's gross to me because all you people. That's how I felt about golf. I'm like, all you social media people, you make it look gross to me. Because it's elite, it's hard. You're making it harder than it needs to be. So with all things, if they're trending, people are going to create a facet of elitism. Barbecue is starting to do that. It is. And I hate to see it. But at the same time, like, and I'm be honest with you guys, because I keep it totally real around here. Sometimes I wonder, am I feeding into that? Like that example I just shared, Guys, my worst nightmare, like it could bring a literal tear to my eye if I think about it for too long. My worst nightmare is that there's someone that wants to get into barbecue for whatever reason, and then they get in and they buy their smoker and they're excited, and then they start watching videos, and then 4 months in, the system consumes them, meaning the algorithms and the videos and the snippets and the this guy says this, but this guy says that, and then they do what I did with golf, where they're like, ew, this isn't even fun anymore. I wasn't even able to get deep enough into this thing before the elites at the top told me barbecue has to be this. You have to have your Yeti koozie, and you have to have your mill scale or your. That's no knock to mill scale, because I love those guys. But you get what I'm saying? Like they're a Ferrari of smokers. That's a fact. Like you have to have your mill scale. You have to have your Moberg, and you have to be using this guy's rub, and you have to cook your brisket this way, and you have to, and then before you know it, this guy's like, bro, I can't afford a mill scale. I don't even know what you mean by dirty smoke or clean smoke. I barely can afford a brisket, and I was just looking for a reason to smoke a cigar and, like have a hobby on a Sunday, Saturday. So I hope I don't feed into that. I try to do the opposite while also relaying the core tenets of barbecue. But gatekeeping in barbecue for me fed into the elitism of barbecue, because you had guys for so long that just like they would do one or two things. They just wouldn't tell you or wouldn't show you what they're doing. That happened for a long time. And then you had guys that would tell you what they're doing, but it's not actually what they're doing. They're giving you like a half-baked truth, which I don't know about you, my parents out there, but like, son, if you gave me half the truth, you just lied. I mean, 99% of the truth is not the truth. It's 99% of the truth. So my thing is like, give me the whole cake. Don't give me half the cake and try to convince me it's the whole cake. Like, bro, either you're using kosher salt and pepper or you're not. I don't know. And also, I don't care. My only thing as a young guy trying to learn barbecue back in the day is like, if you're using seasoning salt, tell me that. Because I would like to then go home and try to use seasoning salt, because you make one of the best briskets on planet Earth. And that's what I'm trying to do. So give me the full truth. I don't know. That's my take on gatekeeping. I'll give you another example, using Aaron Franklin as an example, which part of my problem in this barbecue community is, I'm going to go on a tangent, but I'll come back to Franklin. Part of my problem is that I haven't shared much of my background. Like people know me in air quotes because they watch. It's like me. Like I watch enough of some guy's videos. I'm like, I know that dude. Like if I were to see him in public, like Peter McKinnon's a great example. He's taught me a lot about photography and cinematography. If I were to see Peter McKinnon in public, I'd just be like, yo, Pete, what's up, bro? And he'd be like, who the heck are you? Like, it is what it is when you watch enough of somebody. Actually, I give Pete more credit. He'd probably be nice. But you get what I'm saying. Like, you watch a lot of someone's content, you feel like you know them. But my point is, like, no one really knows me. So let me help you get to know me better. My life before this YouTube thing was spent out of the public eye, behind closed doors, in financial institutions and or firms, investment firms. In my background, how do I put this? In the world that I came from, as some of you may know, if you're a business builder or you're in investment banking or whatever, is you can't play around with the truth. Like you cannot do that. Not only is it not acceptable, but it has legal ramifications. You can't play around with it. So that's just my personality. Is like, it really agitates me when people gatekeep and then gaslight you like they're giving you all the info and they're not. That's because of my background. Now, barbecue, is it a $150 million apartment complex that requires underwriting and due diligence, and there's people living on the inside, so you're dealing with 150 potentially plus, or not 150, sorry, $150 million investment, I don't know, 350 unit apartment complex. There's 350 families in there, and you're doing due diligence, and you got loans, you got capital you're raising, and investors and shareholders and stakeholders and all the stuff. Is barbecue that? No. So is it okay if Franklin says, I use kosher salt and black pepper, but he's putting Lowry's on it? It's not that big of a deal. What's my point? My point is I struggle to find the line between the two examples I just shared. So I come off as sometimes like, maybe, I don't know if cocky is the right word, like frustrated or angry or whatever. It's just because I take this thing serious and I want people to tell the truth and stop gatekeeping. So I started my channel, and that's why you never see that stuff from me. And I think that's why the channel has been relatively successful for the amount of effort that I've put into it. I mean, I've posted it doesn't matter. I have to go into it. I'm just saying I have not posted a ton of videos in comparison to the amount of subscribers I have. And that's because each video that I post has been quality. It's been the truth and nothing but the truth. It's been authentic and it's been genuine, and there's been no gatekeeping, no secrets, no nothing. So there's that. Let me take a sip of coffee. All right. Where are we at, guys? Gatekeeping. I got 2 more topics on elitism, then I'm going to steam through a bunch of cool topics. But I wanted to touch on elitism because that was the genesis of the whole idea to begin with. So I wanted to unpack it. If I was a content, that's a bad word to say that I was going to say after that. Content, let me think of a better word. If I was a content miner, if I was just mining content, I could have turned all of these into individual podcasts and then posted 10 podcasts and then got the revenue from all 10 podcasts and whatever. But I don't want to do that. I would just rather pack it into an hour or 2, 3 hours, however long it takes. You guys pick and choose what you want or don't want to watch. I'll try to timestamp this. A matter of fact, if someone's watching this, please, I will mail you a free brisket booster if you timestamp this entire podcast. That will require you to watch it from front to back. But if you watch this, I will mail you free brisket booster I'll mail you free brisket booster or 2 of my hats if you watch this whole thing and help me out and put in the comments the timestamps. You don't have to do it any fancy way. Just at the time marker. If it's 1 minute and 35 seconds, I shift it to a new topic. Just put 1:35. If at 2 hours and 50 minutes, I shift it to another topic, put 2 hours, 55 minutes, and then dash the topic I shifted to. You guys know how to timestamp. Someone out there, please do that. Okay, 2 more topics. Pellet grill hate, and then people confusing technique with identity. So, in elitism, the pellet grill stuff. Guys, I'm going to move off of this real quick. I said this at the beginning of this year, and I'm going to say it as we round the year out. Stop shaming people for using pellet grills. You got to stop. And I'll just say this to be frank. If you're one of those guys or gals, I don't respect you. I don't. Do I like you? I don't know. Maybe you're a good person. Maybe I'd have a cigar with you. Do I have ultimate respect for you? No. Because I don't respect people that put people down. And I don't respect people for making other people feel bad for the situation or circumstance that they're at or that they've chosen. For example, I moved to Miami, Florida back in the day, I'll say, with my wife. When I left the homeland, the Pride Lands, which is Missouri, the Midwest, the heart of the United States, farmland. When I left it, I left all my smoking apparatuses, all my gadgetry. We moved to a nice little on over the water, high-rise apartment, Miami style. And I couldn't barbecue anything at all. If I wanted to, I would have had to, per the rules of where I lived and also the space allotted, I would have had to buy a pellet grill. I would have had to. Now, here's what I will say. If I risk sounding a little bit conceited, I'll say this to prove my point for shock value. If I would have bought that Traeger and made a brisket, my brisket would have been better than 95% of the people that would have shamed me for using a Traeger. That's just a fact. Was I wrong? Would I have been wrong for using a Traeger? No. This whole, it's not real barbecue, it's not this, that, whatever. I don't care, guys. I don't care. That's like low, I don't even know, energy. I'm not an energy guy. First off, I believe in God. I don't believe in gods, and I don't believe in vibes and energy and whatever. I believe in God, the creator of the universe. So, when I say low energy, this is not some new age term. I'm just saying, like, it literally is. It's just a low energy thing to do, to shame other people for the stuff they're using. Now, on the flip side, if you're one of these guys who's affluent and well off and can afford a couple Traegers, or in my situation, Traeger themselves sends me stuff. They sent me a Traeger. So I have a couple Traegers, but Traeger sent me one, and they send me pellets. If you're in the category of, like, if you're one of these guys that's well off and you got a bunch of smoking apparatuses and whatever, let me put it this way. This is a better way of doing it. Okay, so I talk to the people who put people down. To you, I say, get a life, grow up, quit. That's what I say. The flip side of those people, if you're one of these guys who has all the sponsorships, all of them, has all the gear, you got more gear than you could cook on or that you'd know what to do with. And I'm partially talking to myself because I got a lot of gear. Be careful is what I'm saying. Be very wary that you don't show yourself in your gear in a way that makes barbecue seem harder and more expensive to get into. And I'm saying that to myself just as much as I'm saying it to the next guy or to the guy that's bigger than me, whoever they may be. Because the bigger, I believe, the bigger that you get in the public eye, the bigger the onus is to continue to make barbecue not only just look appealing, but look doable and attainable. So I'll round it out with this. I started barbecue on a big box store, Charbroil, I think was the brand. I don't remember. Was it a Charbroil? It was my dad bought it. It's a cheap thing. I don't know, $200-$300 max. And I use that for forever. Literally for forever. And it got stolen. So I don't know where it is now. But some of the best food that I made was on just one of the cheapest things you could get. And then lastly, people confusing technique with identity, which ties into the rules. But yeah, barbecue's changing because folks, barbecue is changing, I think mostly for the better right now, but I'm not going back. I'm going like pre-COVID because something crazy happened in COVID. If I started my channel during COVID, guys, we'd be freaking 100,000 subs right now, but I was too late to the party. Something shifted at and after COVID where barbecue just blew up. Before COVID, people's identities in the barbecue space were caught up in their techniques, mostly on the internet. And And I don't think that's healthy, because your techniques aren't who you are, and your techniques aren't law. Your techniques are the methods and means that you use to serve people. So by that notion alone, it's not about you. It's about the people you're serving. So anytime you start to identify with the techniques that you're using to create the product, and that becomes your mantra and your marching orders and your identity, I believe you're losing a little bit of what this thing's all about. Now, what I will say is Bar A Barbecue, for example, they cold smoke their briskets. They're some of the best briskets in the game. That is a core part of who they are. Bar A Barbecue's methods is they cold smoke their briskets. But if you were to sit down with Cooper or Alec and talk to them, they would spend little time on talking about the cold smoke. And the amount of time that they would spend talking about it is the only reason that they would spend time talking about it, is what I was trying to say, is because someone asked them. They're not concerned with pushing techniques and methods like they're law. They're concerned with serving people and delivering the best product. That's what they're concerned with. How do I know that? Because I've sat down with those guys and talked to them. I have it on film. I've not released it, but I have it. I asked them about the cold smoke, and they did it. Probably reluctantly. They put the mic on and they talked about it because they love barbecue. They talk barbecue. But I can tell you my experience from being with those guys is they're less concerned about the method. They're more concerned about making the best product. And I know this for a fact because I talked with Coop. If something allows him to make a better product, he will adopt it because he's not anchoring into one specific law of barbecue. What he's anchoring into is that he wants to make the best barbecue. And so if something comes out or he tries something new and it makes a better product, he'll flex to it. Not everyone's like that. Not everyone's like that. I think that's a byproduct of a couple things. Younger generation of barbecue. Coop and I are around the same age. I think the boomers would consider us the younger generation. But look, guys, we came in this thing. We dedicated a lot of time to it. And then we started producing. Now, I'm not on their level at all because I don't have a restaurant. I don't run a restaurant. I mean, I do behind the scenes stuff, catering stuff, that kind of stuff. But I don't run a restaurant. So I'm not trying to compare myself to Cooper or really any of those guys. But what I'm saying is Cooper and I are alike a lot in the sense that we're both former football players. So by that notion alone, we desire to get better. We invite adversity. We look at something and look at it from a schematic standpoint. Like, we approach barbecue differently from our backgrounds. That has allowed us, again, still using him as an example because it's the shoe fits. That has allowed us to hone a craft that's been around since the dawn of civilization. That is cooking meat over live fire or with live fire. We're not anchoring. I'll be done speaking for Cooper. I'm not anchoring to one given thing because what I care about is making the better product. Hopefully I drove that point in. All right. I'm going to talk about Franklin's secret. And I'm going to try not to vomit. That was dramatic. Pregnant pause. I said I'm going to try not to vomit because the whole Franklin's secret thing, like, it's just, I'm tired of it. Why are we still talking about secrets? Sorry. Let me redo that. I'm going to have to get better at podcasting because I gotta put more of a filter on. The guy that asked this question is a massive supporter of meet and greet, and I love that dude. He interacts with nearly all of the content that I produce, and I have the utmost respect for him. So that response that I just gave is not directed towards him. And actually, I'm thankful that he sent this question in because it allows me to vent this off, to gas it off. So I won't name his name because I keep all questions confidential, but he knows who he is if he's watching this. So, brother, that was not towards you. I'm just saying, as a whole, I'm tired of the what's Franklin's secret thing for a few reasons. One, I believe that there are more people worthy of inquiring what their secrets are than Aaron Franklin. This is coming from a guy who has tried to shoot a documentary with Aaron Franklin. I have reached out to Franklin's team. I've flown there specifically to eat the barbecue. Like, I'm not saying this to knock Aaron Franklin. Aaron Franklin, to me, is on the Mount Rushmore barbecue. You cannot deny that. So I'm not trying to defame Franklin. I'm just saying I've had better brisket, objectively, and that's okay. And I've talked to and met and seen other pitmasters that I think are more worthy of asking their secrets. Why? Because I don't know how convinced I am that Franklin is willing to share the secrets. And to me, that's a prerequisite for I don't know, man, this is hard. I don't want to say that's a prerequisite for having 100% of my respect, because one, my respect doesn't matter to anybody. That's not what I'm saying. It's not like my respect is special. But my point is, like, if you're not willing to share 100% of the sauce, then just say that. Just say that. Otherwise, I'm not interested in trying to pull the secrets out of you, because I'm not even certain that what you're going to tell me is 100% the truth. So I'm just going to move on. That's my point. I'm just going to go to someone else that's willing to share the secret. Example, Cooper. I just talked about him. Dude, Cooper, it was like mind-blowing when I was there. I don't know if he doesn't care or does care about how he's forthcoming with his methods. I don't know. What's in his heart is what I'm saying, or what's in his mind. I just know what he does, and what he does is he shares it all. That's legit. The guys at Goldie's, they don't hide nothing. Nothing. I mean, so far, they're not in the business of keeping secrets. I could go down the list. What's my point? I'll give you an example. I flew to Franklin's. I got there at an ungodly hour. Now, I'm not like the rest of the patrons there. Not because I'm special, but because I am a legit barbecue nerd, and I legitimately know how to cook barbecue. Okay. Most people coming through that line are not on YouTube doing 2.5-hour masterclasses on how to trim and smoke a brisket. So by that basis alone, we're a little different. I got a little bit of a different eye. So with that eye, I went back to the pit room and I took detailed note of the stacks, the multiple hours that I was there. What I did was I was able, on my own, I've not published this, and I probably won't, because it's not that big of a deal. And I like Aaron Franklin, so I'm not here to defame anything he's doing or whatever. However, with that said, what the woman she was a pit master, which was dope to see, by the way. What the woman running the pits, at least when I went back there, what she was telling me on what proteins were on, which she didn't show me, which is fine, but what proteins were on, the timing that they put the proteins on. Then I was looking in the firebox and I was seeing the way that the fire was constructed, and I was juxtaposing that against the things that I saw with the smokestacks. I was a little bit disheartened because every Franklin video that I have personally seen, which I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, tell me in the comments and I'll just admit that I'm wrong. But every Franklin video that I've seen, he says he leaves the smokestacks wide open. Okay. And in 2017, I think it was 2017, I bought his masterclass for like $200 at the time or whatever it was. And in the masterclass, he was using his 500-gallon smoker as an example, and he said he leaves the smokestack wide open. He even went as far as to show the smokestack, and it didn't even have a damper on it. Okay? Then why am I at your restaurant, or why am I at the restaurant, and I see the smokers or the stacks are 3/4 of the way closed? Why is that? Now, maybe I'm being too hard, or maybe I have my tinfoil hat on. However, back to the elitism thing that I was saying 30 minutes ago, it's confusing to the people who really want to do the thing. Like me. Like I really want to be the best I can at barbecue. I'm not just a hobbyist. This is my profession. I want to be good at it. So if I'm paying for and watching a video of arguably one of the best to ever do it, tell me to never close my smokestack down ever, and then I go to the mothership and the smokestacks are closed down, it rubs me the wrong way a little bit because I just cooked 100 briskets this way that I was told. Or however many, you know? Like I just spent hours doing it a way that I thought was the right way when I saw it was being done different at the mothership. So I digress. What's my point? There's no rules. There are, but there isn't. And if there are, they could change tomorrow. They could change. They could morph. They're dynamic. So then what's the takeaway for you? Find a method that resonates with you, whether it's the cold smoke from Bar A, whether it's the leave your stack open from Franklin, whether it's the whatever it is. Find the method that works for you and then battle test it extensively. Stop deviating. Stick to the plan. I say I'm a firm believer that you shouldn't change a core method of your brisket cook until you've done it for 20 briskets. Sorry, for 20 cooks of a brisket. Because just recently I cooked 20 briskets at one time. So that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying 20 individual brisket cooks. Then change your method. All right. What's next? That was Franklin's secret. That's my thoughts on Franklin's secret. Now, I do have some good things to say about Franklin. Not like anything I just said was bad, but I will say, I'll say this. Obviously, pioneer. Obviously, one of the Godfather barbecue nerds. Obviously, Obviously, he took this barbecue thing. Gosh darn it. Obviously, he took this barbecue thing, blew the can open, off to the next level. Just massive respect. I genuinely, gosh darn, man, I would love to sit down with him because I have certain questions. He probably won't want to answer them. That's fine. But I have certain questions that I'd pull out of him that I've been wondering for years. But food was great. Everything was good. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. All right. Someone sent me a question in about the best way to do ribs. I talked about it on my YouTube live, which is still up. And I actually talked about some of these concepts on the live. But I'll just breeze past this. I'm going to spend like 2 minutes on this. The best way to do ribs, for me, it's assuming that we're talking about spare, because spare and baby backs are slightly different. But in 30 seconds, the best way for me to do ribs is to go 70 to 85, 90% unwrap so you can set the bark, get the color that you want. And then the last 10-ish% of the cook, wrap in foil you get maximum pullback off the bone, which looks good visually. And then I like the texture that comes from finishing ribs and foil. However, the last like probably 500 slabs of ribs that I've cooked, probably 1,000 actually. I say 500 because I've changed a few things, but the last 500 slabs of ribs that I've cooked, for sure, I just ran them unwrapped the whole time and then wrapped them when they were done. But that's because it's easier. Like if I load 30 racks of ribs or however many fit on my 1,000-gallon, I don't feel like going in and then wrapping the ribs before they're done and then having to go back and then pull it open and see if they're done, whatever. Like I just like to get them done and then put them in foil and then rest them. But like if I had to deliver my best rib possible, I think my favorite way to do it would be to cook most of it unwrapped, finish it in foil with whatever concoction you want to do at the bottom. That way. I will say though that the competition style rib I think ruined ribs personally. Because, I mean, I think most of us have been around barbecue YouTube long enough to remember the days of the competition style rib where it was like the one bite was fire. Like it was unbelievably delicious. But by bite 3, you feel sick and your teeth hurt and your cavities are jumping off. Like it was the brown sugar and then the honey and then the butter or the margarine, the parquet, and like that way. That's more competition style, and they're delicious. But gosh, man, they're just so hard to eat. And I think what ended up happening was a bunch of us backyard guys. We were serving those ribs to our family, and we were in turn teaching our family that this is what a rib should be. And I don't think it is. I think there's portions of that you can do. But I have a rib video that it like blew up out of nowhere. It was like underperforming and then out of nowhere it just blew up for my channel. And I started reading the comments, and a lot of the comments, if you go look at it, they're all like, yeah, bro, we agree with you. The super hyper sweet rib, we're kind of tired of it. In my rib video, I paid homage to that style of competition rib, but in my own way, in a more digestible way. Like literally, it's easier to eat. So on the rib topic, I just thought of that. I think the competition style rib, we brought that into the backyard barbecue space, and it kind of ran away from us. And I think it's coming back home now. That's a tangent. I'm not going to get into that. Let me move on. I have a header here that I was going to touch on. It says barbecue is changing and not all of it's good. That's me being dramatic. Let me read through what I wanted to talk about and see if it's worth touching on. Yeah, I'm going to touch on this. I am going to touch on this. Also in the comments, will someone let me know so far, is this podcast, I don't know, is it just me being grouchy? I'm not grouchy. I'm really in a great mood. And I love barbecue. And I love all the things we've talked about. However, I just don't feel like anyone's really talking about this. So, here I am. Not like I'm some martyr, but, let me know. And if I am being a little grouchy, are you at least enjoying it? Because I'm willing to be grouchy if it's appreciated. Sometimes you need a little honesty. Barbecue is changing, and it's not all of it's good. I have here social media pressure. That's just more me speaking individually, but I'll touch on it. I have social media pressure, and then I put in parentheses, everything must be photogenic. And I'm thinking about this. You're watching me process this in real time. I get it. I understand it. I really do. I play a part in this. I want to make sure that the picture of the platter is photogenic, or the fourth slice of the brisket is like money. Everything's photogenic. It's all photogenic. The only thing that I'll say that might be perceived negatively is just that I worry for the backyard guy, which is probably the majority of the folks watching this. Now this is me talking to my peers that are creating content. I do worry a little bit for the backyard guy that wants so desperately to cook a restaurant quality brisket and they just can't seem to do it, and they don't have a company mailing them briskets, or like to go buy and cook a brisket. It's a big ordeal. Not only are you dedicating a day, potentially 2 days, to the effort, but now you're paying modern day brisket prices, which are crazy, just to potentially get to the end, slice it, and then compare it to what you're seeing on the internet. I worry about that a little bit. I didn't personally have those pressures when I started barbecue because social media wasn't, Instagram literally wasn't around, but then also when it did start to develop, it wasn't anything like it is today. So I had the freedom of just being able to look at the slice of brisket objectively and then be like, am I personally proud with this? And did my family like it? That was all I was measuring it off of. Then there was diner drive-ins and dives that came about. And then I was able to see, like brisket from the Louis Miller episode. And then PBS, I think, started doing the Franklin stuff at the time. So I was able to look at the Franklin stuff. And then things started to roll out. But even still, there wasn't a ton of pressure. It just raised the bar a little bit. But now you go on Instagram and it's like, what? Even I have that. Even I'm like, my goodness, I'll never cook a brisket like that. And then I'm like, well, that is a restaurant. I mean, it's literally a restaurant. So they should be the best of the best. But then also, I say to myself, why am I comparing my barbecue to a barbecue restaurant that just ranked on Texas Top 50? Which, in other words, would be considered some of the best in the world. Why would I even make that my metric? Well, I have the answer. Because I want everything to be as good as it could possibly be. So I'll continue to chase that marker. But I'm just saying, barbecue is turning into a hyper social thing. It's hyper social. Barbecue at its essence, I think, has always had a social aspect to it. But by social, it didn't mean the entire world. It meant your friends, your family, your neighbor. Like, that's what barbecue was. You got your closest circle around you, and then maybe their friends, and you threw a shindig, and you cooked for them, and you had fellowship and communion. That was what social barbecue was. Now, social barbecue is I pull this thing out and then I just go look at how crappy my brisket is. All right. Ribs. We touched on that. Okay. Let's touch on the goods. Let's start talking about the goods of where barbecue's at today. There are some good changes, I think, that are not being talked about, and I'll talk about them. Kind of running in the same vein as all the things I just talked about, but a little bit different. There is some serious growth happening with backyard cooks. I don't know if I'll venture as far as to say pitmaster, because I think that word's used way too loosely these days. But backyard barbecue guys, there is some serious growth that is happening. And it's a product of everything that I just talked about. Social media, Instagram, YouTube. I don't consume TikTok. I post to TikTok. I've never watched a TikTok video literally in my life, other than when I open the app, there's a video there. If it's interesting, I will watch that video and then go post my video. So I'm saying that I have no idea what's happening on TikTok. I would assume it's much like Instagram. So there is a lot of growth happening for the backyard guy, which is a product of social media. And I think that's awesome, because to be able to, like, I'll give you an example. I did a video maybe a year ago or so, And I don't remember the title, but it was something to the effect of either you need this for better barbecue, or it was like this one barbecue item changed my barbecue forever, something like that. It was a warmer. I did a video on a warmer. I've been using a warmer like with all my barbecue for a few years now. But before that, I just was using ovens and coolers and whatever. At the time I bought the warmer, I had never really seen a backyard guy go buy a warmer. But I wanted to up my barbecue, so I bought a warmer. It was used, it was off Facebook Marketplace, it was janky, but it still works today and I love it. Just getting that warmer alone took my brisket up. My brisket got the level of quality increase that I saw from using a warmer would have taken me another 3 years of just practicing barbecue to make the brisket better, that much better. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. My point is, I got the warmer. It upped my barbecue tremendously. And that warmer was a byproduct of seeing them on social media at other barbecue restaurants. Thanks to social media. For that, I became a better backyard guy. And in turn, I made a video that told people to go get a warmer. And you should read the comments. People got warmers. And they're like, bro, my barbecue's better. I've had people DM me and say, dude, never in a million years would have thought I could get a warmer, but I got one, and whoa, I think my brisket tastes like the restaurants. Probably does. Probably does. So the backyard guy is just upping the game. I put pellet grills making barbecue more accessible. I put that as a topic I wanted to touch on in the good things about barbecue, but I think I talked on pellet grills enough, so we'll move on. I will say, kind of in the same vein as the backyard guys getting a lot better, the backyard guys on social media, the positive is that they're pushing the boundaries on, I don't know if flavors is the right word, but flavors, techniques, methods, different stuff, because the social media game is you have to catch the attention of the world in like 3 seconds. So they have to push the boundaries on the things that they do for the clicks, but in turn, you're still pushing the boundaries. Like you're still doing something for clicks that is super unique and innovative. And so it's pushing barbecue. So I think that's positive. Let me round this out because we're going long. I'm going to round this out and then I'm going to do some viewer questions. Okay. So I have what barbecue should actually be about. Like, what's my philosophy? I have bullets. Depending upon if I'm able to get through just naming the bullets off without going down a rabbit hole, that will determine how long this section is. Humility, community, patience, fire management. The why behind barbecue. Period. Those are like my core barbecue ethos, staples, is humility. Guys, the greatest people I have met in the barbecue game could at any given day drop the receipts on their resume and would never have to convince you that they know what they're doing, ever, based on the receipts. I'll give you an example. Lance Kirkpatrick. I call him the Yoda of barbecue. Cut his teeth at one of the most historic barbecue restaurants on planet Earth, Louis Miller Barbecue. Like, you're talking about Mount Rushmore of barbecue, Lance. And he cut his teeth years ago at one of the staples of barbecue. On that merit alone, he does not need to convince you that he knows what he's talking about. And then he went on to just stack barbecue accolades. My point is, he's the most humble guy I've ever met. And truly, he is. If you ever get the opportunity to talk to Lance, He won't talk about himself unless you ask him. And then when you ask him, you have to pull it out of him. How do I know that? I filmed the documentary there and I interviewed him. His humility, like, he's just humble. He's really humble. And all he's concerned about is turning out the best product that they can and equally helping the guys and gals that are interested in learning barbecue. It's like what he's concerned about. He just wants to make the best product he can, drive the mission forward, which is preaching the good word of barbecue. He wants to help people. He's just humble. Community, I don't have to dive into the community aspect because we all get that. I love the barbecue community. I honestly think it's arguably one of the greatest communities out there. I'm a cigar smoker. I've been smoking cigars almost as long as I've been barbecuing. It's a long time. It feels like a long time. And I know, as much as I know about barbecue, I would say you could transpose that and I could say I know that much about cigars. So I'm like way down Nerdville on cigars. And I would say that's a great community. It's an amazing community, and barbecue almost even rivals that community. It is one of the greatest. And I love that. And part of the things that made content creating difficult for me, it still is, honestly, is I don't have community. And that's part of the reason I wanted to start Meet and Greet, is because I didn't have anyone around me that cared as much about this barbecue thing as I do. And so my wife actually was like, well, you could just start a YouTube channel and then over time you'd probably go find those people. And I fought it. And then finally she was like, dude, quit talking to me about barbecue. Go start a channel. I'll help you record it. Just, she literally said, she's like, I'll film it. You just like explain it to the people. I'll film it and I'll edit it. I just show up and talk. And my first videos, that's all it was. Even the fire management, that's all it was. It's just she got the camera and the mics. She did everything. I just showed up and talked. A couple years later, I have a community that I freaking go to war with. Dude, I go to war with all you people. I love you guys. However, I don't have physical community. I miss that. I really do. So, as a side note, in 2026, I'd like to work to find how I could continue to develop the community, but also how I could get more involved in the barbecue community. Like Troubadour Festival, I don't go to that. I don't go to any festivals. South by Southwest, I don't go down for that. I don't do anything because I've been too busy doing this thing here. But 2026, I'd like to get more physically, actively involved in the community because it's what I love. It's one of the things I love most about barbecue. I just said it, community. Fire management, don't even need to talk about that. You can't have barbecue without learning how to actually operate a fire. So anyways, there's that. Let's round this out. Rapid fire listener questions. I have this. I don't know how many of these I want to get into. I'll touch on them. Should ribs fall off the bone? These are pulled. I don't know if you guys follow me on Instagram. It's just the same handle that you see on my channel here. It's just at Meet and Greet Barbecue on Instagram. Follow me there, please, because it'd be cool to have like 10,000 subscribers. Because that's just a vanity metric that would make me feel good. I'm being honest. I don't really have any purpose for Instagram. Most of what I do obviously is long form. Anything that I do on Instagram is just effort. It takes extra effort, but I do understand the need for Instagram. So if you're watching this and you don't follow me over there, show your boy some love. On Instagram, I posted to my story. I like to do this a lot. It's a way that I like to interact. I'll post a poll, I post one of those question things, and then people will drop questions, and I'll just answer like 30 questions on Instagram. So I pulled some of those over here. Should ribs fall off the bone? No. No, they should not. But there you go. Barbecue rule back in the day. You want fall off the bone ribs. You don't want that. I think we all are wise enough now to know we don't want that. Now, here's what you do want. You want to cook a rib that resembles the chewing mechanics of a fall off the bone rib. That's what you want, because that's what the common person expects. They expect a fall off the bone rib, but you don't want it to actually fall off the bone. You want structural integrity with your rib. So when you bite it, obviously, like most of us know, it has a clean bite through, but when they start chewing it, it feels to them like a fall off the bone rib. That's what you That's what you want. You guys want me to get super, super duper nerdy on you to show you how deep into barbecue that I think. So I do events, like a 4th of July event. I've talked about it before. We invite like over 100 people. I cook a bunch of food. Okay. Here's what I think. You ever eaten a chicken wing and you're just hungry and you're gnawing into the wing? And sometimes you're like sucking on the gristle of the wing, like you're just getting after it. Something clicks over in our brain, I think, that's slightly primal. I do. That allows us to just eat meat off of a bone. Like, think about that for a second. Actually, think about that. Humans are wired to gnaw off a bone with our teeth meat. So, I want that same primal thing that happens in people's heads. I want it to exist when they eat my food. I mean, I could cook a rib that falls off the bone, but I would rather them primordially, is that a word? I'd rather them click into their, aspect of being a human, and I want them to work for it a little bit. Is Texas barbecue overrated? Gosh darn it. I forgot I put that one on here. No, not at all. It's not. Not even close. No, I was gonna dive into that. Texas barbecue is not overrated because it is the gold standard. In my opinion, it holds the line. It holds the line. For that style of barbecue. Where I see people start to run into issues is when they start comparing regions of barbecue like they're comparable. Someone says, oh, Texas barbecue is better than the Carolinas. If you make that statement, I already know you don't understand barbecue, or you understand it, you're just cocky. You're just an a-hole. Because how could you compare a whole hog to a brisket? How is that comparable? It's not. How could you compare pork hash to, I don't know, sausage, to Texas sausage? You can't. It's not. They're not even in the same. They're not the same. So is Texas barbecue overrated? No, because it's the gold standard when it comes to cooking tough cuts of meat that no one has historically wanted on an offset smoker for prolonged periods of time, and turning a cut of beef that you literally couldn't give away for free into something that today, right now, is so far overpriced, it's depressing. Texas holds the line for that. Carolinas, you couldn't hold a flame to the way that they take a pig, hang it over coals, and somehow, some way, over an extremely long period of time, cook everything to the right doneness, all at the same time, for the most part. Mop a addictive mop sauce over it, vinegar base. Pull that pork off, slap it on a bun, give you a scoop of some pork hash. Are you kidding me? You can't beat it. But it's not comparable. That's my take. Are pellet grills real barbecue? I'm not even going to answer that because I touched on it earlier. So guys, stop asking that question. Just quit. It's freaking annoying. Sorry. That was dramatic. But it is annoying. Quit asking, is it real barbecue? What is real barbecue? That's the real question, and then go from there. What is real barbecue? My answer is going to be different than the next guy. So, I mean, I could give you the blanket answer that I think most folks would say. Real barbecue is protein cooked with utilizing live fire for a prolonged period of time. Smoking fire, smoking heat, I think. So, you be the judge of that. I don't know. Drop in the comments. I'll do that one. Let me know. What's your answer? Is a pellet grill real barbecue? Is Wagyu brisket cheating? No. Well, cheating in what way? I don't even know if I understand that. Is it cheating? How? You still got to cook it the same way. No, actually, I just processed that. No, it's not cheating. It's just a higher grade of beef. is all it is. I think it's a little bit easier to mess up a Wagyu than it is a choice brisket. I think that from my experience, because it's so much more delicate. It's just more delicate. Like you have to pay a little bit more attention. It's just way easier to overcook it. People, I should do a whole episode on brisket. Like what is a properly cooked brisket? Because if I make a statement like I see people, keep in mind that people send me their barbecue, pictures of their barbecue, and ask me questions and have me help them. And so when I say I see people, know that I'm not just saying that as a empty statement. It's the truth. I see people send me their brisket and say, "What do you think?" And then I sit there and I'm like, what do I think? Well, do you want me to be honest? Of course they do. I honestly think, and I give them the truth. And I help them, of course, navigate the next cook because I like to interact with people. But my point is, people have a misconception on what a properly cooked brisket is. I see a lot of briskets that get sent to me or on the internet where there's no structural integrity in the grain. It's just all like one congealed mush slice. And they're like, look at how tender this brisket is. Look at how beautiful this brisket is. Maybe it's juicy. Maybe it's whatever. It's moist still. But if you're trying to do it at the highest level, that's actually not ideal. That's not optimal. You want some structural integrity in the grain structure on the slice. You want that. On a Wagyu, it's harder to cook it to 203 degrees. Ooh, that just reminded me. How in the world, what have we been going, an hour and a half? How in the world on brisket absolute or on barbecue absolutes did I forget the 203 degree phenomenon? Gosh darn it. It's too late for me to go back. I'll do a whole podcast on it. I have to. Okay, moving on. If you cook a Wagyu to 203 degrees, there is a chance that you've ruined the structural integrity of that Wagyu, potentially. Now, every beef is different. Every brisket is different, but there's a chance, a high likelihood, you overcooked it because of how nuanced that cut of beef is. Historically, I haven't preferred Wagyu only because I never spent enough time to perfect it, and geographically, I don't have great access to it. However, there is a potential that I start doing some work. I won't say the company, but I start doing some work in partnership with them, and they have Wagyu beef. So I'm excited about that. Do barbecue YouTubers ruin barbecue? How in the world do I answer that as a barbecue YouTuber? Let me take a drink and give us a pregnant pause while I think. Do barbecue YouTubers ruin barbecue? Yes, in some ways. Yes, in some ways. Let's talk about it. After all, we are on a long-form podcast. Do barbecue YouTubers ruin barbecue? I'll tell you how I feel. When I have on my channel forever tried to not name drop. One, because I'm a creator, and in my professional career, whether it was when I was a low-level sales guy or led sales teams or whatever, I was a big advocate for never, ever, ever badmouth the competition ever. One, because it never works, and it never looks good for you. And lastly, if you have to badmouth the competition, that shows where you're at with your ability to sell, close, and negotiate. So if you're using that as a tactic, you're lacking skills. Take my own advice. I'll never badmouth any of my fellow creator. I'm not going to call them competitors because I don't compete with anybody. I'm in my own lane. But there is only so much attention span to be had. So in that aspect, yeah, I guess I'm I'm competing for the attention of someone else, whatever. So I'm in real time trying to decipher if I want to name drop, because I would like to talk about this, but nah, I don't want to. You can insert whoever comes to mind when I explain this. If I have millions of followers or subscribers, and I'm sponsored by, actually, I don't care. What am I talking about? I'll name drop because I don't have any ill will towards anyone. Matt Pittman, for example. Let's ask that question, and let's just use him as an example to work through the question. Because this guy said, do barbecue YouTubers ruin barbecue? And Matt Pittman's a barbecue YouTuber. I mean, I am as well, and I could use myself as an example. But for one, I don't think I am a good example because I don't really profit from this. I mean, I don't profit. I said this on my last video, not to sound like I'm like a victim. I lose money every month doing this. I don't really make money. I do it because I love it. That allows me to I can't be bought. There's no freaking company that could ever buy me. I don't care how big I get. I am Marcus Frisbee, and meat and grease not for sale. It's just not. I would rather lose money every month than have $50,000 months, knowing that I'm a content slave to someone else. Now, let's talk about Matt Pittman. Now, I'm not saying he's a content slave. I'm just saying I don't profit yet. We have top line revenue, we have take home, we have profit. Top line is one thing, what we take home is different, and it ain't a lot. So my point is, I'm not going to use me as an example because I'm not profiting yet from the industry. So let's talk about someone who does profit from the industry. Matt Pittman. I think some would argue that he is one of the biggest barbecue influencers out there. I think I could objectively agree with that based on the numbers. I'm going to be careful with what I say because I've never met him. I don't have necessarily any ill will towards him, but let's answer the question. Is he ruining barbecue YouTube? Or is he ruining barbecue? I think my first answer to the question would be to answer a question with the question is he progressing barbecue? That's how I like to attack these things. Is not as someone ruining something, but are they advancing the thing? And if they're advancing the thing more than they're hurting it, then I believe they're at a net positive. And I think that's the case with Meat Church, Matt. I think he's doing more good for barbecue than bad. However, like I said at the very beginning, elitism. Is elitism the word? It doesn't sound right. Elitism. I think that sounds better. I believe. I don't know. I believe he's sponsored by Miller Lite. Help me out here, folks. Yeti, Turtle Box. What else? Mill Scale. Something else. There's probably some other stuff. I think he says he's the official pitmaster for the Dallas Cowboys. I think that's cool. I think that's super cool. Kansas City is right up the road from me. I'd love to be a pitmaster for NFL football team, whatever that means. Would I love to be it for the Dallas Cowboys? No, because I like winning, and we win. The Chiefs win. I'm so childish. What can I say? It is what it is. Now, this year might be a little different, but come on. We win. So I'd like to do it for a team that's winning, but also I think that's super cool. So there we go. You got a guy sponsored by all those people I named. First. Second, I believe he posts every week. So there's that. So he's feeding the community every week. When they go watch him, they see a guy with the sponsorships, the Traeger, the mill scale, super dope outdoor kitchen, the knives, all the stuff. Now, here's the question. How then, from all of that, how then could he be ruining barbecue? I think my answer is that becomes subjective, because is him being sponsored, running a business, remaining profitable, hopefully he's profitable, I would assume he's very profitable, but remaining profitable and pumping content into the algorithm, teaching people barbecue, is that ruining barbecue? No. I think the only way that he or me or anyone else begins ruining barbecue is when you start putting up barriers to entry into this game. The second that a new guy watches Matt Pittman, falls across one of his videos, and thinks to himself, I could never do that because I don't have, and then insert whatever reasoning he would have. I don't have this thing. I can't do that, whatever. If we start making barrier to entry to this thing, we're ruining barbecue. I don't see it with Matt. I don't watch I don't really watch his stuff, so I don't know. So maybe I'm the wrong guy to talk about it. But I will say, historically, from what I have seen, I would be a hypocrite to say Matt's ruining barbecue when my goal is to be at and past where he's at. That's my goal. That is my hope for this whole meet and greet thing. I'd love the sponsors. I'd love the this or the that. I'm just telling you, for me, I can't speak for the rest of the creators. I just know for me, I can't be bought. And I'm not saying Matt can be bought or anyone else. Yoder, Bradley, Ants, I don't know. Whoever else is, Malcolm, whoever else is out there. I'm not saying anyone can or can't be bought. I'm speaking for me. I don't care if this channel never grows another subscriber. You could offer me $100 million. I do not care. I will never make this barbecue thing harder than it needs to be. And yeah, we're not for sale. That's my point. I don't know. That doesn't answer the question, but I think that's subjective anyways. I think what barbecue is now versus what it used to be is barbecue is a highly engaging, very sticky, very alluring hobby for most people. Now, because of social media, you get on social media and you see the best parts of barbecue, and you see the most engaging parts of barbecue, and you see the most shock value parts of barbecue, because that's what gets the clicks. That's what drives the retention. It's just a cause. It's a result. It's causation, whatever the saying is. It's a byproduct of it's the nature of the beast. So what you're seeing is what drives this most success in the algorithm. That makes it look very alluring. But when you get into it, you realize when you're 10 hours into a brisket cook and it's whatever time in the morning or at night and it's not going how you wanted it to go, you're like, dang, this isn't as sexy as it looks. And that's why the restaurants have my utmost respect, because they're cranking every single day through all the controllables and uncontrollables. And it is a cold game. So barbecue these days, I think fundamentally it's still the same challenge as it's always been. There's just more of the highlight reels than what there used to be. I don't know if that makes sense. The most I could say, in summary, is love the craft for what it has always been initially. And that is you taking the time to learn an art form while understanding and appreciating the fact that it won't happen overnight. It likely won't happen over a few years. It will happen over many years. Learn the craft, hone the craft, be good at the craft, and weaponize it. So you weaponize it for good, meaning use the craft to bring and promote fellowship, to have a shared meal over something that you labored over, so that the young ones that are watching you can see what true craft is in an age where craft is dying. And then the older ones around you can look back and appreciate what they know, and what the older generation knows is craft. They know handmade. They know American made. They know hand built. They know patience. They know hard work. Barbecue takes both bookends and shines a spotlight. And it teaches the younger generation what craft really is, and it reminds the older generation what craft used to be. And that's what barbecue is. That's why you should do it. And with that, my friends, I'm going to round the first official podcast out. I don't know when I'll do the next one. It will be solely dependent based on the engagement on this one. That's both likes or dislikes and comments. If you found any value in this video, let me know. If not, let me know. Most of all, I love you. I love you from the bottom of my heart. I mean it. As always, Big Frizz, over and out.